Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today, I'm pretty excited about this one, guys. We're showing you a home brew. Today, we're going over the DB6 Goku Leader Revenge of the Great Ape. There's a lot of creativity in this deck, which I know in this format, there are quite a few linear strategies that people aren't quite a fan of. They're very, very powerful. There's no denying that. But this one definitely takes a very different route in terms of deck building and play style. So I'm pretty excited to show you guys. If you're new here, definitely subscribe, hit that bell to never miss a video. And if you want to buy any of the cards you see in today's video, definitely use my link down below to TCG Player. It really does help the channel out a lot, guys. That being said, let's get started. So we've had draft box leaders for 3 different draft boxes now, all the way from draft box 4. They all have the same thing where they're treated as red, blue, and yellow, and whatever their main color is, right? So this one is green, Zeno was red, Vegeta was blue. They all count as all 4 of the primary colors. Now this one is different because it actually draws when it attacks, which is something that the other draft box leaders did not have, which is crazy. The thing with if your opponent's leader is red, blue, green, and yellow, this gains critical. You can pretty much ignore that unless you're playing a mirror match. That's just like a cool added benefit, but that's pretty much never going to happen. So the fact that this leader actually draws makes him way more viable than the previous draft box leaders we've seen. Like, you can pretty much consider all the previous draft box leaders the same exact card, except for their character name, which usually isn't too relevant. But this one actually swings and draws, which is amazing. At 4 or less life, you untap one, draw one, which is a great awaken skill. A lot of times it's better than just the draw 2, especially if you're, not a pure blue leader. But even in that case, this leader is still blue for a lot of stuff we'll talk about in the deck profile. And the backside, whatever, it's treated as all 4 colors, attacks, draws. Nothing incredible there, which is one of the hindrances of the deck, because a lot of leaders in this format, the leaders themselves do very, very powerful things. But I would go as far to say as the leader being treated as all 4 colors is one of the powerful things that it does. So let's get into the main deck. So these 3 cards right here, are the reason why I wanted to craft with this leader, and they're the reason why this leader is powerful, just because it counts as all 4 colors and itself has consistent draw, which again, the other draft box leaders didn't really have. So Dimension Magic with Raider's Warcry is something I've wanted to pair for the longest time. I mean, it just makes absolute perfect sense. It's like a match made in heaven, right? Like, I wanted to play this with something like the Kefla Surge leader, but the problem with Kefla Surge was she didn't have any consistent draw on her on either side. Actually, neither sides of the leader drew there. I was really hoping we would get a blue-yellow Bardock's crew leader, which I'm still hopeful about. Who knows? Maybe we'll still get that, because why would you print yellow Bardock's crew stuff and not give us a yellow or blue-yellow Bardock's crew leader? But anyways, this leader allows you to do this. This leader allows you to mix Dimension Magic with Raider's Warcry, because they don't require mono yellow or mono blue leaders. Now, that's the important thing to note is if the card requires a monocolor leader, well, according to what I found from judge rulings, this leader does not count as a monocolor leader in any sense. He also doesn't count as a multicolor leader. He's kind of just like somewhere in the middle, which is kind of weird, but luckily nothing really requires like a specific multicolor leader, right? That's pretty good. So you can play these 2 cards together, and you can also play Rebrand Punishing Passion. It's basically just your reverse Sand Instincts, but you do need green energy charged for this card to work, which we will have in the deck, as you'll see. But this basically trinity of cards is the absolute #1 reason I wanted to play this deck rather. Raider's Warcry is one of my favorite cards in the game, and it hasn't been too relevant as of late. I mean, the only yellow deck that's really seeing play right now at the time of recording is Sin Shenron, and we're not seeing a lot of those mid-range yellow decks get a lot of play. So this card has kind of been just like sitting on the shelf, not doing much. But this deck is very, very little yellow. There's this and one more yellow card we'll talk about later. You're never charging yellow. There's actually a blue-green deck, 52 card list. Blue-green. We're actually playing blue-green multicolor, which is also very, very cool, because multicolor has not been played in quite some time. So I think this is actually a really, really powerful strategy when you combine the fact that you can play all these different color-reliant cards, as well as some multicolor that we haven't seen in a while. So let's get into the rest of the deck here. So for our Unison lineup, we're playing 4 Demigod Unison Sorcery. Of course, we're playing 4 Charismatic Villain to complement that, and I am playing 2 Deity's Wrath just because I own it. I'll say this all the time when you're playing this card. The Deity's Wrath is not a necessity. It's a very, very expensive card, and I'm only playing 2 because I own 2 copies. If I was to build this deck, I wouldn't go out and buy Deity's Wrath, especially if it's still at the $90 mark or whatever crazy expensive price it was at. I wouldn't go out and get it. You don't need it, but it is just another powerful thing the deck can do. But that's okay, because the deck is actually chock full of powerful things it can do, so I wouldn't say you need to go out and buy Deity's Wrath. Now here's my thing with the Unison lineup here, and here's one thing where I'm still trying to experiment a bit with the deck. Like I said, it's blue-green. We're playing a green Unison with Charismatic Villain. I love Charismatic Villain as a counterplay. I love Demigra as a Unison. Early pressure only costs 1, so you get to save space for other plays in that same turn that you play it, because we'll usually play Demigra on turn 2, since turn 1 we're going to charge a tapped multicolor energy. My one problem with this Unison lineup and the deck as a whole is there's no good floodgate you can play at the very moment, because like I said before, you're not a mono green leader, so you can't play Dormant Potential Unleashed, which definitely hurts. Definitely is very unfortunate you can't play that card. So I was thinking about trying a blue Unison where I could play Heroic Prospect Trunks, but the main problem is all the blue Unisons cost 2. I really don't want them to cost 2. And this one provides you Self-Awakening, which can be very, very important if your opponent's not going to be, wanting to awaken you, right? So Demigra does offer lots of the deck, but it might prove to be the point that we need a floodgate negate like Heroic Prospect Trunks. So there might be a swap at some point for a blue Unison, of course, for the God-Stealing Trunks, and then probably take out the Deity's Wrath and put in some number of Heroic Prospects, probably 3 Heroic Prospects. So I want to let you guys know where I'm at deck building wise in that scenario, but for now, this is working quite well. Let's move on. So here is the beginning of the blue-green stuff. We have 2 Hidden Potential. We have 4 Tapion, Fate of a Hero, and 4 Protector of Wildlife, Android 17. He is pretty much your automatic charge. Nothing really to say there. Tapion, Fate of a Hero is an absolute incredible card if your leader's green. Again, this one does not require mono green, so that's great. You basically pay a green, you discard him, you draw a card, and at the end of the turn, you play him. So he's either a aggressive tool where you're just playing a 1-drop 15k battle card. He's also a blue-green energy, which is actually not really too relevant in most other decks he's played in. But besides that, he's also a 15k blocker on turn 1. And there are a lot of aggressive decks in this meta. Just did a video yesterday talking about all the powerful aggressive decks in the meta if you want to check that out. But basically, Red Broly, Reboot Gohan, Vegex, Tapion is an important early game play against those types of decks. And then Hidden Potential, in my opinion, it is one of the best cards in blue-green, and it is kind of relevant in this format because we are seeing some stally decks arise as a result of the aggro dominance, right? So for instance, Hidden Potential is a 1 energy counter to Topo Righteous Aid. It's also a 1 energy counter to Vegeta Ready to Rumble, which just in my personal opinion, playing against decks like SS3 Reboot and decks that play Ready to Rumble like Blue Baby are very, very annoying to deal with. So I'll gladly play the, the 1 energy answer to those cards. Your opponent can tap 3 or tap 4 or tap 2, whatever, card they're playing for that scenario, and you just basically stop it. You get to still go in with your onslaught of attacks because you have Raider's Warcry in the deck, you have Tapion in the deck, you have other aggressive cards in the deck we'll talk about in just a bit. So I like Hidden Potential for that reason. This stuff here works out really well, and it makes me happy to play blue-green. I think one of the reasons people don't play multicolor anymore is because it can clunk really hard because there's a lot of 10k combos in the deck, and this deck is no different. There are a lot of 10k combos, but we have a lot of energy on tap between Dimension Magic and Senzu Bean. We are playing blue, obviously. Senzu Bean will come later in the video, but yeah, I think this works out well for that reason. All right, for the rest of the blue-green lineup, we have 2 Bad Omen. This is a card that you do want to see on turn 1. This is your ideal turn 1 charge, but you don't want to play 4 copies because honestly, if you have a bunch of these dead in your hand, they just absolutely do nothing. So you're kind of hoping to draw it in your opener, but I wouldn't necessarily hard mulligan for it if the rest of your opener is pretty solid. 2 Sands of Earth coupled with Primitive Power for our blue-green arrivals. Yeah, arrival, something we haven't seen in quite some time. I know Marcus on his stream has been messing around with red-green arrival. That stuff does seem pretty good, but here with a Bionic Blitz, make your opponent bottom deck a card in their hand. I like Bionic Blitz a lot too in this deck because you can use it early to defend and not necessarily worry about what your life total is. So if you're playing against aggro and a 10k combo would serve your purpose well, you can combo with it, make your opponent lose a card, chump block some type of early crit or early big damage, and then if you have the 2 energy available, play the Sun Gohan, make them pitch another card, make them lose a battle card. That's really, really great for anti-aggro. So again, this engine just seems to work out really, really well for me. And then for the final stuff of the deck, guys, we have 4 Senzu Bean. That's pretty much obvious. We have 3 Swift Massacre Frieza. So this is a 4-drop with Deflect, but if you have 5 or more green battle cards in your drop area, which that will count your multicolored battle cards as well, it becomes a 3-drop, and it's a Deflect, KO something, ignoring barriers. So it's basically a 3 energy, kill anything, which I think is really, really good in this meta. There are going to be a lot of mid-range decks where you want this, like Invoker, for instance. Well, that's more of a control deck. But anyways, there are going to be a lot of scenarios where you want this card to basically remove anything. That's one of the things that I felt like the deck was lacking, was just straight up removal for anything in the game. And this card pretty much does that as a generic green answer. You don't have to be playing a specific archetype to get that result, right? So that's really good there. And then Zarbon Cosmic Elite is just a card that most green decks play, especially if you're green mid-range. Like, let's say you're playing Majin Vegeta, you're not playing Cosmic Elite, right? But if you're playing like a green mid-range deck, Cosmic Elite has just been proven to be one of the best cards in that color pool. It just works really well. It's an early game blocker, makes your opponent lose card advantage when it dies. And then Sand Instincts is another card I wouldn't necessarily say the deck needs. With 4 Rebrian, you're already limiting your opponent's resources quite a bit, so I don't think you need Sand Instincts. I was messing around with a tricolor version of this deck where you would just charge a hard yellow. It played the Zamasu super combo, and it also played Bergamo Ferocious Roar, so that's why I had more of the yellow in the deck. But I cut all that stuff because I found it was just a little bit too clunky, and I'm still playing Sand Instincts because it's just like a, you know, a generically good card, right? But I kind of don't think you absolutely need it. And again, this is a 52 card list, so you could just straight up cut the Sand Instincts and not play it. But yeah, this is the list I've come up with, guys. Again, like I talked about earlier in the video, there's still work to be done. I'm going to try out that blue Unison type of thing with Heroic Prospect. That Floodgate is very, very good. But other than that, we're going to see if we need it with all the other defense in the deck, like Arrival into Gohan, Goku, Sands of Earth, like Raiders Warcry. The deck is relatively defensive. But I do want to know what you think in the comments below. This is a brew I'm pretty excited about. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.